With a population of roughly 11 million and a standing force of more than 50,000 personnel, Cuba enters the present day armed with a weapons inventory inherited from the Cold War era. Which of these systems still retains real value? This is what we will explore in today's video. We begin with the most foundational layer in Cuban defensive doctrine, the air defense network. For Cuba, air defense is not intended to achieve air superiority, but to slow, disrupt, and force an adversary into tactically unfavorable conditions from the very outset of conflict. At the highest tier of this network is the S-75 Divina, also known as the SA-2, a long-range surface-to-air missile system designed to threaten high-altitude aircraft and defend fixed strategic targets. With its long engagement range and powerful fragmentation warhead, the S-75 creates a clear risk, compelling hostile aircraft to fly lower or disperse their formations. However, its reliance on fixed radar sites and poor mobility makes it vulnerable to detection and suppression. As a result, in Cuban thinking, the S-75 serves as a strategic deterrent rather than a decisive battlefield weapon. Once the adversary is forced to lower altitude, the S-125 Neva, also known as Pechora, assumes the role of low-altitude lock. This system is better suited to tracking low-flying targets and is effective in defending air bases, ports, and other critical infrastructure. Its limited coverage area makes independent operation difficult. Instead, it functions as a gap filler at low altitudes around point targets, progressively narrowing the enemy's so-called safe flight corridors. To add flexibility, Cuba fields the 2K-12 Cube as a mobile, medium-range air defense layer. Its ability to frequently change position complicates enemy targeting and suppression planning. The system is capable of threatening tactical aircraft and helicopters while protecting maneuvering ground forces. Its weaknesses, complex operation, and dependence on radar mean the Cube is most effective when employed in coordinated groupings with external target cueing, rather than operating alone. At close range, the 9K-33 OSA serves as a rapid reaction system, engaging low-flying targets that penetrate the upper layers. By integrating missiles onto a wheeled chassis, the OSA achieves high mobility, making it suitable for protecting maneuvering units, ports, and coastal areas. Its limited engagement range confines it primarily to point defense and formation protection, dealing with threats that slip through the higher tiers of the air defense network. In parallel with missile systems, the ZSU-23-4 Shilka uses dense cannon fire to create a low-altitude danger zone. Its fire control radar allows the Shilka to operate in limited visibility conditions, proving especially effective against helicopters and ground attack aircraft. With a short engagement range, the Shilka represents the final cutting layer, relying on sheer volume of fire to punish targets once they are forced down low and into proximity. Finally, Strela and Igla man-portable air defense systems push air defense all the way down to the infantry level. Their high degree of dispersion makes the low-altitude airspace unpredictable and particularly dangerous for helicopters and slow-flying aircraft. Despite limited range and reliance on the individual operator, manpads ensure that the lower air layer is always at risk of ambush, forcing helicopters and slow aircraft to operate with extreme caution. Beyond the multi-layered air defense network, Cuba's armored forces are not designed for rapid maneuver breakthroughs or modern tank versus tank engagements. Instead, they are optimized for a more practical objective: holding key terrain, supporting infantry, and prolonging close-range combat. The backbone of this force is the T-55, an older generation main battle tank weighing roughly 36 tons, armed with a 100mm gun, and capable of a top speed of about 50 kilometers per hour. In Cuban defensive doctrine, the T-55 is not meant to charge forward. It is a space-locking tool used to hold road axes, urban approaches, and critical defensive positions. Its main gun remains effective in engagements under 1,000 meters, particularly in urban environments and restrictive terrain. Its drawbacks, the lack of modern fire control systems, absence of thermal sensors, and limited night fighting capability, mean the T-55 has little chance of surviving a confrontation with modern armor. Accordingly, its role is to pin, support, and attrit, not to seek rapid victory. Supplementing the T-55 is the T-62, an upgunned variant equipped with a 115mm smoothbore gun and weighing around 40 tons. The increased firepower allows the T-62 to apply greater pressure at short to medium ranges, especially when positioned along key defensive lines or in critical urban areas. However, like the T-55, it remains constrained by outdated sensors, poor night combat capability, and low survivability against modern anti-tank weapons. In practice, the T-62 serves to reinforce firepower at blocking positions, prioritizing urban defense and key routes. At the mechanized infantry level, the BMP-1 acts as the link between infantry and mechanized firepower. Weighing approximately 13 tons, fully amphibious, armed with a 73mm gun and AT-3 Sagger anti-tank missiles, the BMP-1 enables Cuban infantry to maneuver quickly and maintain supporting fire in coastal and urban defensive operations. The trade-off is thin armor, which makes the BMP-1 vulnerable if operating independently. Its effectiveness depends heavily on close coordination with infantry and supporting fire layers positioned to the rear. In parallel, the BTR series serves the role of transporting and redeploying forces. The BTR-60, with its wheeled design, allows infantry to move quickly on paved roads and in urban environments, but its thin armor and limited firepower make it unsuitable for direct combat. The BTR-50, using a tracked chassis and offering good amphibious capability, is prioritized for coastal defense and potential landing zones, enabling the rapid deployment of large numbers of infantry in a short time. Both vehicles are employed primarily to move troops and reposition forces. Their armament is strictly self-defensive, not intended for direct fights. Finally, the BTR-152, an older generation armored personnel carrier, remains in service for rear area duties and second-line defense. Its simple design makes it easy to maintain under constrained conditions, but its low level of protection renders it unsuitable for high-intensity combat. Within Cuba's force structure, it functions as a transport and logistics platform rather than a frontline combat vehicle. Taken as a whole, Cuba's tank and armored forces clearly reflect an asymmetric defensive doctrine. They do not seek maneuver dominance or superior firepower, but instead focus on holding ground, supporting infantry, and prolonging conflict, forcing an adversary to pay a cumulative price over time, rather than through a single decisive battle. After denying the airspace and holding the ground lines, Cuba relies on artillery to disrupt, attrit, and break the tempo of an enemy advance. The BM-21 Grad embodies this philosophy most clearly. This multiple rocket launcher delivers wide area saturation fire in an extremely short time, particularly effective for interdicting landing beaches or disrupting troop assembly areas. A salvo does not require pinpoint accuracy, but it is sufficient to apply psychological pressure, disorder formations, and force the enemy to pause deployment. Because the rockets are unguided, the Grad depends on reconnaissance and pre-planned area fires, serving to dominate the initial tempo rather than to decide the battle outright. Complementing this saturation fire is the D-30, 122mm howitzer, the backbone of Cuban tube artillery. This towed gun provides steady indirect fire for defensive lines, supporting interdiction, harassment, and infantry support at medium ranges. Its simple design allows deployment from prepared positions and sustained pressure over time. Its drawback is low mobility, which makes it vulnerable to counter-battery fire if used continuously, forcing employment in intermittent rhythms with frequent displacement. At the closest level, 60 to 120mm mortars provide direct support to infantry in defense and close-range counterattacks. Their strengths lie in rapid deployment, flexibility, and ease of concealment. In urban and complex terrain, their high-angle trajectories are especially effective. Despite limited range and destructive power, mortars are an indispensable fire layer for maintaining continuous pressure in attritional warfare. After disrupting the enemy's ground tempo, the Cuban Air Force appears not to dominate, but to strike quickly, disengage rapidly, and apply localized pressure. The MiG-21 serves as the primary interceptor platform for point defense missions. Its high speed and rapid scramble capability allow it to conduct short, sharp engagements that force an adversary to disperse formations and adjust operational plans. However, outdated sensors and limited weapons make the MiG-21 unsuitable for prolonged air combat. In practice, it is a hit-and-run tool rather than a seeker of decisive engagements. At a higher capability tier, the MiG-29A provides improved performance at medium range. Its radar and maneuverability allow more effective engagement of aerial targets under favorable conditions. Even so, limited numbers and maintenance challenges mean the MiG-29 Alpha is employed selectively. In Cuban doctrine, it is a reserve card, not a routinely deployed force. When combat shifts to low altitude, the direct attack role falls to the Mi-24 Hind. This helicopter is used for ground fire support and counter-landing operations, particularly effective in surprise strikes against infantry and light vehicles. Its limitation is vulnerability to low-level air defenses and enemy man-pads, which confines its effectiveness to carefully timed, short engagements rather than sustained combat. Complementing these platforms is the L-39 Albatross, a trainer aircraft adapted for light attack duties. Easy to operate, low in cost, and capable of carrying basic ordnance, the L-39 is suited for limited support in low-risk environments. Within the Cuban Air Force structure, it is a better-than-nothing solution for low-threat missions, not a decisive asset. When the Air Force is sufficient only for harassment and localized interception, Cuba's next defensive layer lies at sea, where an adversary must be disrupted before reaching shore. The 4K-521 Rubej is the most important coastal deterrent. This mobile anti-ship missile system allows Cuba to directly threaten escort vessels and amphibious ships offshore, forcing an adversary to keep distance and disperse formations. Shoot and scoot capability reduces vulnerability to retaliation, but limited numbers and reliance on reconnaissance make Rubej best suited to imposing risk along landing approaches, compelling dispersal and standoff, rather than decisive destruction. In the near-shore maritime environment, the OSA class fulfills a mobile harassment role. With high speed and anti-ship missile firepower sufficient to threaten small to medium escort vessels, OSA class boats employ hit-and-run tactics, avoiding confrontation. Limited survivability prevents sustained engagements, but they are effective at creating risk and forcing an adversary to disperse protective forces. In parallel, Cuba's coastal corvettes are designed for area defense rather than blue water warfare. They conduct patrols, protect nearshore waters, and control the maritime space around key ports, operating close to shore and leveraging coastal geography to reduce vulnerability to long-range attack. Against modern navies, their role is maritime patrol and near-water control to extend surveillance rather than engaging in direct ship-to-ship combat. Alongside these are patrol craft and coastal surveillance assets, which, despite limited firepower, play a critical role in monitoring, early warning, and tracking enemy avenues of approach, extending reaction time and feeding data to rear fire layers to create a resilient near-sea defense structure focused on persistence rather than immediate lethality. Once an adversary penetrates the outer fire layers and approaches the coast, Cuba's fight shifts ashore, where infantry and special operations forces form the final defensive layer, and warfare becomes slow, costly, and difficult to conclude. The AK-47 and AK-74 constitute the core infantry firepower. High durability, simple construction, and reliable performance in tropical environments make them suited for protracted warfare, where the Cuban doctrine values sustained fire in urban areas, jungle, and complex terrain over absolute precision to counter mechanized threats. The RPG-7 provides an asymmetric equalizer, simple, easy to use, and capable of inflicting severe damage at close range. It is especially dangerous in urban ambushes and restrictive terrain, winning not through technology but through angles, distance, and surprise, forcing adversaries to advance cautiously. At longer ranges, the SVS Dragunov expands infantry engagement space. Its purpose is not strategic sniping, but sustained pressure on high-value targets such as commanders, crews, and support weapons, with semi-automatic fire enabling a steady tempo better suited to attritional warfare than overly sophisticated systems that are difficult to sustain. In the covert layer, the AS Val and VSS Ventores equip special forces for reconnaissance, sabotage, and close-range raids, where heavy suppression is decisive. Despite limited range and firepower, they are highly effective in asymmetric conflict, where disruption and psychological impact matter as much as direct damage. In parallel, Cuba has developed indigenous weapons such as Mambi and Alejandro to engage equipment and technical targets at range. While limited in capability, they reflect a self-reliant approach and serve as supplementary threats to radars, vehicles, and light fortifications, increasing costs for the adversary rather than overturning the battlefield. Finally, grenades, mines, and explosives form the backbone of Cuban guerrilla warfare. Low cost, easy to deploy, and high in psychological effect, they force dispersion, slow advances, and keep opposing forces under constant stress, not to win quickly, but to erode manpower and will over time. Cuba does not seek rapid victory. It seeks to make any invasion prohibitively expensive through prolonged asymmetric and attritional warfare. Do you think this form of deterrence remains effective in modern conflict? Leave your thoughts, and do not forget to subscribe to continue exploring military doctrines and arsenals around the world. Thank you, and see you in the next videos.